I moved in with my grandmother in my 20s to help her with daily living and expenses. My grandmother loved to bar hop with her friends. One night after a night on the town with her friends, my grandmother came home. I was sleeping on the couch with the television on. I looked up as my grandmother entered the room. The television was the only light on in the room. I didn't have my glasses on, but could faintly make out a silhouette of someone at the front door. I grabbed my glasses and put them on as my grandmother locked the front door. I looked at the front door and saw a ghostly figure of a man at the front door. Suddenly the doorbell rang. I told my grandmother, "Don't open the door." She didn't hear me and opened the door anyway. I watched as the ghostly man apparition walked past the light of the television and disappeared into the kitchen. I think he is still in the house to this day. You couldn't ask for a more beautiful spring day, 1984. I had just started as a drummer in a high school rock band. The night before, my older brother and two friends of ours were practicing our new songs in the barn. I was really excited that they said I could be their drummer. I was just dying to get back to practicing that day. The only problem with that was the drum set was in the barn and no one else was home. I normally wouldn't even think about going in that barn alone because of the strange and terrifying things that would happen in there, and especially when there was no one home. But because I was so excited about getting back to practice, I decided to go ahead and go in. I had a plan to go in the front door that was close to the drum set. If anything weird happened, I could get out of there fast. That was the plan anyway. When I got to the door and tried to open it, I noticed that it was off the track and could only open about 5 to 6 inches. That's alright, I thought, I can squeeze through there. So with a bit of effort, I managed to squeeze myself in. It took some time though. Great, now I can get to practice. And practice I did for at least an hour or so. Then I did a rim shot on the snare drum a little too hard and the drum head just split open. Now I'm frustrated to say the least. I threw a tantrum, so to speak, by throwing a drumstick. It flew up into the haymow on the other side of the barn. I watched it bounce into the back addition upstairs. I calmed down pretty quick since I came to the realization that I have to go up there and get it. But practicing was over till I got a new drum head anyway. So I moved the hi-hat out of the way and began to walk toward the ladder to retrieve the drumstick. I looked up toward where the drumstick landed and it was flying right towards my head. I had to move out of the way or it would hit me. Remember, I was alone in there. It hit the wall behind me, making a loud noise that startled me on top of already being terrified by the flying drumstick. Without hesitation, I went straight to the door. I forgot that I had to squeeze in. I was just terrified and just wanted out, but I was going to have to take the time to squeeze back out. While doing so, I mistakenly looked over at the drum set. The bass drum mallet that is foot operated went down like someone had stepped on it. Seeing this move by itself was bad enough, but it also hit the drum hard enough that I could feel it in my chest. I actually thought that my heart had stopped. I was so scared that I forced myself through the door, tearing my clothes up and putting big scratches on my back and chest. Once I was out, I ran toward the house about 15 or 20 feet, then just collapsed. We never practiced in that barn again, not because of what happened to me, but because the lead guitarist bumped into someone or something in the dark the night before when we got done practicing. There was nobody there and he knew it. He told my mom about it a few days later. He wouldn't even go in to get his equipment. My brother and I had to get it for him. This drumstick event was without a doubt the most terrifying I've had in my life. I always considered that barn beyond haunted and into the realm of evil. I was having breakfast at a bakery with my husband and toddler today, and I saw an Instagram post from a restaurant we used to go for brunch. It was an apology note to their clients and followers stating that a few days ago, a client started feeling ill at the restaurant, and despite all their desperate calls for a doctor in the room, ambulance, neighbors, and so on, the young lady unfortunately passed before the paramedics arrived. They did all of that with the restaurant open. They just isolated the girl upstairs and pretended to the other patrons that everything was A-okay and kept serving food. Of course, that blew up as insensitive, dangerous, and disrespectful, and the girl's family is probably going to sue them. Anyway, as I finished reading their piece, I gave my phone to my husband so he could read it too, and fuck me sideways. Some man in the bakery started screaming and running to every table, asking if anyone was a doctor or nurse because someone at his table was collapsing. And everyone started calling emergency numbers and going to the streets nearby to find a clinic or doctor's house. The similarities were so eerie, we both got goosebumps. Thankfully, the person that was feeling sick got better, and help arrived quickly. But it was so odd to live something we were just reading at the palm of our hands at the same time.
In the second Missing 411 book, titled Eastern United States, readers are introduced to the case of a man who vanished from his LaGrange farm under puzzling circumstances.
On page 31, David Talez describes Ralph Stutzman as a hard-working father and farmer who was last seen after telling his 13 children he needed to chase down some cows that had somehow gotten loose. According to the Missing 411 account, which does not cite any sources, a massive search effort was launched. However, despite this extensive search, no trace of the man was ever found, leaving law enforcement officials baffled. Paulides then suggests that there may be a pattern of farmers going missing while searching for their livestock. On page 27, researcher David Paulides prefaces his section on missing farmers by stating, "There was no place to hide, no place to escape. This was home. The evidence from these cases indicates one thing. The victims were coerced into leaving their farms or were abducted from their land. No other explanation fits." Remarkably, recent findings have now shed new light on the Ralph Stutzman case. According to an article in the Indiana-based Ink-Free News, Ralph Stutzman had moved to Florida, changed his name to Delbert Schrock, and fathered another 6 children. He eventually passed away in 1968. The case was solved last year thanks to the efforts of Ralph Stutzman's grandchildren, the LaGrange County Sheriff's Office, and modern DNA testing. How the missing 411 abductor managed to compel the Hoosier State farmer to leave his old family behind, change his name, and raise a new family in another state remains a mystery.